Across the galaxy, thousands of species thrived under the rule of the Concordium Alliance, a vast coalition that had existed for millennia. They believed themselves to be the pinnacle of civilization, the undisputed rulers of the stars. But there was one name, whispered only in myths and forgotten histories: humans. Once, long ago, they had been real. Stories spoke of them as a relentless force, intelligent and terrifying, capable of turning entire wars in their favor with sheer cunning and brutality. But they had vanished. Some believed they had destroyed themselves in their own wars. Others thought they had been wiped out by an unknown enemy. To the Concordium, humans were nothing more than a cautionary tale, an ancient civilization that had reached too far, burned too bright, and collapsed under the weight of its own ambition. The younger races did not even believe they had ever existed at all. But Juvarek, a xenohistorian from the scholar race of the Tarvex, disagreed. He had spent his life uncovering lost relics, deciphering old warnings etched into the ruins of abandoned star systems, and finding scattered records in the deepest vaults of Concordium history. And all of them pointed to one terrifying truth: humans were not gone. They were waiting. Ju's latest discovery was the most alarming yet, an ancient distress signal buried beneath the sands of a dead world, encoded in a language no other species could recognize. But Ju knew it immediately. It was human. The message was over 500 years old, and its translation sent a chill down his spine. To any who hear this, know this: we are not dead. Do not seek us, do not follow. If we return, it will not be for you. It will be for what follows us. Ju rushed to the Concordium High Council, desperate to warn them, but they dismissed him with laughter. Humans! A fairy tale. A scholar like you should know better than to chase ghosts. Ju had almost given up, until the day the fleet appeared. Gigantic ships, unlike anything the Concordium had ever seen, emerged from the void at the very edges of known space. Their hulls were matte black, reflecting no light, moving in complete silence. They did not broadcast any known identification signals, and then one message, translated into every known language, echoed across the stars. You were warned. The Concordium Council chambers, a massive floating citadel in the heart of the galactic capital, was in chaos. Diplomats and generals from dozens of species argued, their voices rising in fear and disbelief. The fleet, those enormous, silent ships, had arrived on the edge of the Concordium's borders, and they had done nothing. No attacks, no demands, no communication beyond those chilling words. You were warned. For the first time in centuries, the Concordium felt something they had long forgotten: fear. Juvarek sat at the edge of the chamber, watching as the so-called greatest minds of the galaxy scrambled for answers. He had tried to warn them. He had told them again and again that humans were more than just myth. But now, with the evidence floating in their own skies, they still hesitated. "This is a bluff," said Grand Strategist Vothkar, the reptilian warlord of the Kryn Dominion. His scaled fists pounded against the table. If they had real power, they would have attacked. "They are scavengers, remnants of a dead race trying to frighten us." Ju narrowed his eyes. "You don't understand. Humans do not bluff. If they are here, it means they have already won. We just don't know it yet." The room fell silent. Then the monitors flickered. A new transmission appeared. unrequested, untraceable. A human face stared back at them. It was strange, so much like the mammalian species of the galaxy, yet different. There was an intensity in the deep-set eyes, something that no Concordium species had ever seen before. Not just intelligence, predatory awareness. The humans spoke, voice cold and precise. "We are the Terran Ascendancy. We have returned, but not for war, not for conquest. We have come because the void is moving, and none of you are ready." A murmur spread through the chamber. The void, a myth, a superstition told to frighten children, a supposed force of nature that consumed entire worlds, leaving only lifeless husks behind. Another lie, just like humans. Vothkar bared his fangs. "You expect us to believe this nonsense?" The human's expression did not change. "Believe what you want, but in 7 days the first world will fall, and then you will beg for our help." The transmission cut off. For the first time in history, the Concordium realized they were no longer in control. Juvarik sat alone in his quarters, staring at the holo display in front of him. The human's words echoed in his mind. "In 7 days, the first world will fall." The Concordium Council had wasted 3 of those days arguing. They did not believe. They refused to believe. Even after humanity's fleet appeared from the void like ghosts out of history, the arrogance of the Concordium held firm. Jew knew better. Humans did not make empty threats. If they had returned, it meant something far worse was coming. A chime interrupted his thoughts. His communicator flashed red, a priority message. His hands trembled as he opened it. A live feed from a deep space monitoring station at the edge of Corel 5, a distant but populated world in the Concordium's outer territories. Static, then movement. Jew leaned closer. It wasn't a fleet. It wasn't a swarm of enemy ships. It was nothingness. A mass of absolute darkness, shifting and writhing, moving without form, yet with terrifying purpose. Stars behind it disappeared, swallowed in silence. The station's automated scanners went wild, unable to classify it. Then the audio feed crackled to life. Screaming, Jew's breath caught in his throat as he watched the last few moments of Coral 5's orbital defense fleet. Their ships opened fire, beams of plasma and hyperkinetic rounds ripping into the abyss. The darkness absorbed everything. It did not deflect. It did not retaliate. It simply consumed. The final transmission from the station's commander was a garbled whisper before the signal died. "The void is real. We are already dead." Jew felt the cold weight of horror settle in his gut. The humans had tried to warn them, and now it was too late. They were being warned. Juvarik sat alone in his quarters, staring at the holo display in front of him. The human's words echoed in his mind. "In 7 days the first world will fall." The Concordium Council had wasted 3 of those days arguing. They did not believe. They refused to believe. Even after humanity's fleet appeared from the void like ghosts out of history, the arrogance of the Concordium held firm. Jew knew better. Humans did not make empty threats. If they had returned, it meant something far worse was coming. A chime interrupted his thoughts. His communicator flashed red, a priority message. His hands trembled as he opened it. a live feed from a deep space monitoring station at the edge
of Corel 5, a distant but populated world in the Concordium's outer territories. Static, then. Movement. Jew leaned closer. It wasn't a fleet. It wasn't a swarm of enemy ships. It was nothingness. A mass of absolute darkness, shifting and writhing, moving without form, yet with terrifying purpose. Stars behind it disappeared, swallowed in silence. The station's automated scanners went wild, unable to classify it. Then the audio
feed crackled to life, screaming. Jew's breath caught in his throat as he watched the last few moments of Coral 5's orbital defense fleet. Their ships opened fire, beams of plasma and hyperkinetic rounds ripping into the abyss. The darkness absorbed everything. It did not deflect. It did not retaliate. It simply consumed. The final transmission from the station's commander was a garbled whisper before the signal died. The void is real. Now we are already dead. Jew felt the cold weight of horror settle in his gut. The humans had tried to warn them, and now it was too late. Coral 5 was gone, not conquered, not destroyed in battle. Gone. Where there had once been a thriving world with cities, oceans, and billions of lives, there was now nothing. Just a silent void where even the stars seemed dimmer. The Concordium's greatest scientists struggled to make sense of it, but there was no explanation. The void had arrived. Juvarek stood in the Grand Council chamber, his heart pounding as the news spread like wildfire. Every screen replayed. The last known transmission. The horrifying moment when Coral 5 vanished into the abyss. Panic erupted among the delegates. Some called for war, others demanded evacuation of nearby worlds. But all of them were too slow. And then another transmission hijacked their communications. A human once again appeared on their screens, but this time he was different. This was not the cold, calculated figure from before. This man wore battle.
Armor, his face lined with scars, his eyes burned with purpose. "You didn't listen," he said, voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. "Now you either fight or you die." Jew stepped forward, pushing through the arguing politicians. "Who are you?" he demanded. The human looked straight at him. Admiral Elias Voss, Supreme Commander of the Terran Ascendancy Fleet. Fothkar, still unwilling to surrender his pride, bared his fangs. "Your people abandoned this galaxy centuries ago. Why return now?"
Voss's expression did not change. "Because we knew this day would come. We were the only ones who saw it coming." Jew's voice was barely above a whisper. "What is the void?" For the first time, something flickered across the human's face.
"Not anger, not pride, fear." "The void is the end," Voss said. "It doesn't conquer, it doesn't negotiate. It consumes, and once it begins, it does not stop." Jew's blood ran cold. "Then how do we fight it?" Voss's lips pressed into a thin line.
"With everything we have, and even that might not be enough." The transmission cut out. A moment later, alarms blared across the capital. The skies above the Concordium's homeworld darkened. The void had arrived. The sky above the Concordium homeworld prime nexus should have been filled with the usual glow of distant stars and bustling orbital stations. But now there was only darkness. A monstrous void hung over the planet, its edges shifting like a living nightmare. The largest fleet ever assembled by the Concordium took formation, warships from dozens of species locking weapons onto the abyss. And then the screaming began. Not from the people below, but from the communications channels. The void didn't send fleets or armies, it sent corruption. Ship after ship reported system failures. Pilots and captains were overwhelmed by something crawling into their minds, a presence beyond understanding. Juvarek clutched his head as a pressure built inside his skull, like an unseen force trying to whisper directly into his thoughts. And then, from the darkness, it came. The first shape to emerge was unlike anything Ju had ever seen, a black mass, shifting and twisting, its surface rippling, as if it were made of liquid shadow. It didn't move like a ship. It flowed toward the fleet, ignoring the laws of physics, bending space around it as if the universe itself wanted to escape. The Concordium ships opened fire. Beams of plasma, hyperkinetic railguns and missiles tore through the darkness, but nothing stopped it. Energy was swallowed, matter was erased. Ships blinked out of existence, their hulls dissolving into nothingness as the void expanded. Then the human fleet arrived. Massive warships dropped from hyperspace, each one sleek and angular, coated in black armor that absorbed scans. Unlike the Concordium, the Terran fleet did not hesitate. They had fought this before. The lead human dreadnought, the UNSV Retribution, unleashed quantum destruction charges, weapons that collapsed space itself. A brilliant flash erupted as one of the void constructs screamed, an ear-splitting noise that tore through every frequency. It wasn't invincible. It could feel pain. Admiral Elias Voss's voice cut through the chaos, his command relayed across every human vessel. All forces engage, no retreat. The battle for the galaxy had begun. The void writhed. The human fleet moved like a pack of predators, attacking with perfect coordination, their weapons unlike anything the Concordium had ever seen. Juvarek, watching from the orbital defense station, saw the impossible unfold. The Terrans fought differently. While Concordium ships held their formations, relying on brute force and shields, human vessels danced through the chaos, twisting at angles no other species could match. Their ships bent gravity, executing impossible maneuvers with terrifying precision. The UNSV Retribution led the charge, its quantum destruction cannons unleashing bursts of energy that tore through the abyss. Every time a void construct tried to advance, it was ripped apart at the subatomic level. The Concordium fleet tried to follow the humans' lead, but they were too slow, too predictable. Vothkar, once arrogant and dismissive of the humans, now barked desperate orders to his fleet. Follow their attack patterns.
Use evasive, his words died as a void construct engulfed his flagship. 1 second, it was there. The next, it was gone. Ju flinched as another transmission hijacked their screens. Admiral Elias Voss's face appeared, his expression hard, focused, utterly ruthless. All non-human forces disengage. You are not ready for this fight. The Concordium generals erupted in anger. You can't order us around, human, one bellowed. Voss's voice remained calm and cold. This is not a request. Either fall back or you will die in our way. Ju's heart pounded. This was no longer a question of pride or politics. This was about survival. The Concordium forces hesitated and then broke formation, retreating toward
the planet's surface. The Terrans held the line alone, and then humanity unleashed their true power. The UNSV Retribution's engines flared as it pushed forward, its Omega-class gravitic warheads launching into the void. The weapons detonated, not with fire, not with light, but with the sheer force of collapsing space itself. The void screamed. For the first time, it recoiled. Ju could hardly breathe. He had seen 100 battles in his lifetime, but never one like this. The humans were not just warriors. They were executioners, and for the first time in history, though not with sound, but with something deeper, something that vibrated through reality itself. It wasn't just a reaction to pain, it was rage. The Terran fleet pressed forward, moving like a single, unstoppable force. Their ships cut through the abyss with weapons that no other species had ever imagined, let alone developed. Ju Varric gripped the console in front of him, watching in awe and terror as the humans did the impossible, their weapons, Omega class. Gravitic warheads, quantum disruptors, and dark matter lances ripped holes into the void, severing parts of its existence from the fabric of space itself. The void lashed back. From the writhing darkness, shapes emerged, nightmarish forms, beasts made of shifting black tendrils and glowing empty eyes. These were no ordinary constructs. These were elders of the void, ancient entities that had existed before the stars were born, and they were angry. The first elder construct reached out with impossible speed, engulfing an entire human battleship. The vessel, the UNSV Titan's Wrath, vanished in an instant, ripped from reality, as if it had never existed. For a moment, Ju felt dread creep into his soul. Even the humans could not win this. Then Admiral Voss's voice rang out across the battlefield. Omega protocols, engage. The humans had been waiting for this moment. The largest ship in the fleet, the UNSV Ragnarok, activated something no Concordium
species had ever seen before. A reality shredder. A ripple spread across space, a pulse of pure unmaking.
Everything it touched, void matter, constructs, the very fabric of the abyss, ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not consumed, simply erased. The elders of the void howled in terror. For the first time in countless eons, they were the ones being hunted. The humans pressed forward, relentless, merciless, giving the void no chance to recover. Ju watched as a realization settled into his bones. The Concordium had thought the humans were a lost species, a relic of the past, a myth, but the truth was far more terrifying. Humanity had not vanished. They had been preparing, and now they were executing a war that had been centuries in the making. The battle was far from over. But for the first time, the void knew something.
It had never felt before desperation. The battlefield was chaos, a war unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The humans did not fight for conquest.
They did not fight for survival, they fought to erase. The reality shredder aboard the UNSV Ragnarok pulsed again, sending waves of pure annihilation across the void. More elder constructs writhed in agony as their very existence was ripped apart. The abyss, once thought to be an unstoppable force, was losing, but it was not dead yet. The void adapted. A new wave of darkness surged from the abyss, twisting space itself, warping the laws of physics as it fought back. Ships were pulled into black maws, time distorted, entire fleets stretched and broken in impossible ways. Even the Terrans struggled. Their ships blinked in and out of existence, entire squadrons disappearing before they could fire. Admiral Elias, Voss clenched his jaw. He had known this would happen. That's why humanity had prepared one final weapon, a last act of defiance. Juvarik, still watching from the Concordium's orbital station, felt his blood run cold as he saw a massive structure detach from the human flagship. It was no ordinary weapon. It was a planet-sized engine of destruction, its surface covered in runic symbols of pure energy. Something built over centuries, a weapon meant for one purpose, the Terminus Protocol. "All human ships fall back," Voss commanded. "Final detonation in 3 minutes." The Concordium forces, watching in stunned silence, could not comprehend what they were seeing. "What are they doing?" one general asked. Jew understood. The humans were about to do something that no other species in the galaxy could even imagine. They were about to destroy a concept. The void was not just a creature. It was not just an enemy. It was a fundamental force of the universe, an eternal, ever-consuming abyss that had existed before time itself. And humans were about to kill it. The Terminus Protocol activated. A pulse spread across the battlefield. The void froze. The elders screamed in a language that had never been spoken, their forms twisting, collapsing as they realized what was happening. The weapon was not just destroying them. It was rewriting the laws of the universe. Where the void had once existed, there would be nothing. Not just absence, not just silence. Nothing. The countdown hit 0. Light exploded across the void, a light that had never existed before. A new law was written into reality. The void ceased. The battle was over. Jew stood on the Concordium homeworld, staring at the empty sky where the abyss had once loomed. Humanity had won. No, that wasn't the right word. They had erased their greatest enemy from existence. Admiral Voss appeared on the hollow screens one final time. His face was grim, his voice weary. "It is done." He exhaled, then looked straight into the camera.
"Now you understand why we left." The Concordium was silent. The entire galaxy was silent. For centuries, they had dismissed humans as myths. Now they knew the truth. Humans had never been extinct. They had simply been waiting for the moment
When the galaxy would need them, and now the legends had returned.